first-time restaurant owners lose money before they ever open the doors. They get stuck, they overpay, or they burn out. I'm here to make sure that that's not you. Welcome back to the Restaurant Incubator. This is the show for entrepreneurs, chefs, and anybody else who's crazy enough to dream of opening their own restaurant. My name is Brandon Sharp. As an executive chef, I earned 7 consecutive Michelin stars. As an entrepreneur, I own and operate 3 restaurants in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I've helped dozens of other chefs and first-time owners through the same journey that I've gone through and that you are going through. So if there's one thing I know for sure, it's that opening a restaurant is one of the most exciting and overwhelming things that you will ever do. Most people who fail don't fail because they're bad cooks or lazy owners. They fail because they don't have a roadmap. So today I'm giving you the roadmap that I wish I had, wish somebody had given me and pointed out these things to me. I had to learn them the hard way when I opened my first place, Evangeline. And so if you want to hear more about Evangeline, just go back and listen to last week's episode with Sasan Nayeri, whom I hired as the GM of Evangeline and eventually sold it to him a couple years later. Evangeline is still running strong 10 years after we opened it, and that was February 2nd of 2015. So this restaurant roadmap has 10 steps to help you plan smart, spend wisely, and open with confidence. So whether you're still scribbling ideas on the back of a napkin or you're about to sign your first lease, this episode is for you. Take a second right now, pause it, go to the drop down, give us 5 stars on Apple, give us 5 stars on Spotify. You would be surprised how much your rating helps an underdog podcast like ours. We go up against, big boy chef podcasts, right? And those are done by chefs who haven't picked up a knife in years and who've never opened their own restaurant. I'm still doing both of those, and we're still banging out podcast episodes. So I would appreciate your support. Back to the roadmap. Okay. Step 1, validate your concept. Who is your customer? What do they want? And equally importantly, what are they willing to pay for it? So again, ask yourself, and I know I've said this before, ask yourself the question, what problem does this restaurant solve? Is there no authentic Mexican in this neighborhood? Is there no decent delivery pizza? Is there no regional Italian? And Italian is always a good idea. So too many chefs fall in love with their idea and forget about the market, forget about the customer. I mean, I've seen gorgeous, high-end 5-star sushi bars, crumble and crash and burn, because they're in a restaurant. They're in a neighborhood that's a blue collar neighborhood, and it's just students and workers who need affordable, delicious, high calorie burritos. So test your concept out before you build. Do pop-ups, run tastings, even if it's only on friends and family, and get honest feedback. Because you have to make sure that people are willing to pay for what you intend to cook for them. That was step 1. Step 2, define your vision and your goals. Is this a lifestyle business? Are you looking for one great neighborhood spot that you can run for 20 years? Or are you trying to build a scalable brand that is reproducible and you want to grow to multiple locations? So have that in mind so that you're not pigeonholing yourself into one model, from the very get-go. Keep your options open and make sure that you've got the ship pointed in the direction that you want to get to. This shapes everything. So the funding, location, the staffing, all of it. Clarity on this point saves you from headaches and again, from painting yourself into a corner later on. So get clear on this before you get busy. Step 3, build a startup budget, also known as a pre-opening budget. So this is when you're getting quotes from contractors, when you are getting bids on equipment and sourcing equipment, everything from the heaviest stuff in the kitchen down to the small wares. You are also going to have a design budget. You need to be very clear on what you can afford to pay for light, from the ceiling to the floor, right? The lighting fixtures down to, do you have hardwood floors? Do you have tile? Do you have carpet? And everything in between: tables, chairs, banquettes, bar stool, bar top. All of this needs to go into your pre-opening budget. You need to figure out how much your vision is going to cost, and you're probably going to need to scale it back from there. Because it's not just about your daily food and labor costs. Those are your operational expenses. We're talking about your pre-opening budget. This is about what it costs to get the doors open in the first place. Permits cost money. Unless you're designing it yourself, you're probably going to have to pay a designer. So there are design fees, deposits, furniture, soft opening costs of the food and labor that they're going to be expenditures for you when you are welcoming guests in for friends and family night. All of this needs to go into your pre-opening budget because you are going to be spending real money, and probably a lot of it, before you welcome any paying guests in through your doors. And pad your budget. Things are going to take longer and they are going to cost more than you expect. That's not negative thinking. That's not doom and gloom. That's just reality. And I can't even explain to you the stress of having to make cash calls and running out of money. And, the contractor is still working on good faith, and, you've missed an invoice, or you've only partially paid an invoice or something like that. Whew, man, it takes my breath away thinking about, running out of money, opening Bluebird, and having to, take out personal loans to get that place open. So please, please, please raise more money than you think you need. Pad your budget. Step 4, choose a location. So pick your location carefully. Location is not destiny, but it can make or break your concept. So your best bet for a location is a starving crowd. If you have a starving crowd for what you are serving or selling at your location, you're going to succeed. So if it's a coffee shop, you need foot traffic. You can't just be on the side of a highway. If you have a food truck, where are you going to take it? You're probably going to take it to construction sites, right? Or office parks, that sort of thing. So look for that starving crowd. Look for that location that makes sense. Again, your restaurant has to be the answer to a question posed by the marketplace. So look beyond the charm, look beyond, the original beautiful wood floors or the pretty brick walls. Foot traffic is mentioned, the structure of the rent and a reasonable landlord. And don't forget about parking. Americans love to drive. And so if you are outside of a city center, people are probably going to be coming to you in cars. So please have space for them to park. Look at Outback Steakhouse, right? What is every Outback Steakhouse, every Cracker Barrel surrounded by? A huge parking lot, right? Exactly. They all matter more than the pretty brick walls, like it or not. So don't fall in love with the space until the numbers work. Step 5, write your business plan. I know nobody likes writing these, but it has to be done. And to act like a pro, to be a pro, and to be taken seriously by landlords, bankers, and investors, you will have to be able to present this and speak to it with confidence. And it'll help you immensely. Also, it's not just for them. So the business plan has to have the executive summary, a 5-year financial plan, the key players, the competitive set review, the market strategies, and then it should end with the ask. So the ask is, this is how much we need to raise. This is how much I would like to get from each investor, or this is the increments that we are willing to accept investment in. So if you are looking to raise $500,000, maybe that's the explanation. To get this project growing, to get this project going, we need $500,000 initial capitalization. Percentages of equity are available in increments of $50,000. So that means the least that somebody can invest is $50,000. And maybe somebody wants to invest all $500,000, and that's the available equity. And so then you only have one investor. But that's one way to structure your equity investors, especially if you are doing an LLC. As for the business plan itself, again, it doesn't need to be long and flowery, but it should hit those major points. You have to talk about your competitive set, how you're going to do things better than them, how near or how far away they are geographically from your market. You have to have that 5-year financial plan, also known as the pro forma on it. That is generated by your year 1 operating budget. By the way, all of these can be found in the Restaurant Launchpad, which is the suite of digital business assets that I have built for y'all. That link is also in the show notes. But again, with your business plan, keep it short, keep it sharp, focus on operations and what you are going to do better than anyone else. Focus on the return on investment, because even though your investors may be making an emotional decision to commit to you, they are also making a rational one. And if they have money to invest in your restaurant, they probably know a lot about money. So they are going to want to see the ROI, which is the return on investment for the money that they are going to basically gamble with you. So be positive, but be realistic. My advice to you on this is to under promise and over deliver. I've seen it so many times when developers or management companies, are dying to get a project off the ground, and they will put together a pie in the sky pro forma that promises millions of dollars in return in, year one and year two. And it's just not realistic. And then they end up apologizing for years and years and years. It's the technique of asking for forgiveness rather than permission. I consider it dishonest. But that's the way some deals get made. So step 6, plan your menu and your kitchen flow. I always refer to this as ergonomics. And so when you are thinking of the ergonomics of restaurant work, this is the way that people move through the space and that product moves through the space. So product should come in one line, right? It should go from the back door to the receiving area, to the storage area, to the prep area, to the finishing area. So probably the hot line or the cold line. And then it goes to the expo station, and then it goes to the dining room, right? And so some of those steps may be compressed. If you have a tiny kitchen, you may not have a separate prep kitchen from your finishing kitchen, but everything should just go in one line in one direction, or maybe it's a curve, but it shouldn't go back and forth, and there shouldn't be any backtracking. And same thing with the flow of people in the space. So you may want to have one-way swinging doors, so servers aren't crashing into each other as some are coming out of the kitchen with full plates of food and others are coming back in with bus tubs of empty glasses, right? You need to have defined paths of travel and ergonomics through the kitchen and through the restaurant, and especially in those transition areas where you go from back of house to front of house, whether that's service station, coffee station, dish room, whatever it is. That's where accidents happen, and that's where bottlenecks happen. So imagine as you lay out your restaurant floor plan with your architect and with your contractor, imagine yourself in the space working as a host, working as a server, working as a bartender, working as a back waiter, working as a line cook, working as a steward. Think about what movements those people are going to have to go through in their positions and construct your layout accordingly. These are things that, because once you have built the walls, hinges go on, doors go on, people come in the space and they start banging into each other, they're going to think you're a moron if it's impossible to get the job done because of the structure. So take your time with that and get it right. Step 7, build a financial model. So this is your year one operating budget. That is going to be the core of, that's going to be your financial roadmap for year one, right? And so there are many ways to build this. There's a comprehensive way that starts with check average and covers on a daily basis, and basically a ground up way of building it based on revenue, and then for food costs, or for all costs of goods sold, and for labor costs, and for most other costs, just based on a percentage. So be realistic with your year one operating budget. Go down to the nitty gritty of, okay, on Mondays in January, this is how many people I expect to serve for dinner service, and this is how much I expect them to spend on food. This is how much on wine. This is how much on liquor. This is how much on beer. Be that detailed. So they're numbers that are reliable to the best of your knowledge. Don't just look at it and say, oh, January will probably bring in $150,000 and then it'll probably be $180,000 in March. No, go down to the granular level and build that financial budget from the ground up that way. In tandem with that, you are going to build out your labor budget. So you're going to write a mock schedule for the front of house and for the back of house and say, this is how many total bodies we need on there, server A, B, C, D, E, and F. On any given night, we're going to need 4 of those servers. This is their hourly rate. This is how many hours they're going to work on an average shift. Extend that weekly, extend that monthly. And so then, and basically when you're budgeting, you can plan on 4.2 weeks per year. That's what the average is across 12 months. So you have their weekly anticipated pay, multiply that by 4.2. That gives you their monthly pay. And then that's the number that is going to add up once you add up all of those positions for 1 month. Every position in the front, every position in the back, you're adding those all up to get your monthly labor totals. And then all of this goes into that year one operating budget. And these become numbers that you can rely on. So if you're running over, then you can just go back. If the P&L after January says you were supposed to spend $60,000, so your budget says you're supposed to spend $60,000 on labor, but you actually spent 66 and you think you hired and scheduled according to your operating budget, you just go back in and say, oh, well, did somebody have to work a 6th day because somebody else was sick? And did we get a bunch of overtime? Or, how did this happen? And so year one, I urge you to stick to that pre-opening budget and try and nail those numbers as closely as you can. You only really want to deal with 1 or 2 variables at a time. Then it just gets too confusing if you're just going off the cuff. So stick to that year one operating budget. It is a huge advantage to you. And it is the difference between like losing your shirt and going out of business or being able to sleep comfortably at night. Step 8, create your critical path. So your pre-opening checklist, also known as your critical path, this has every single task that needs to be done before you open. And so starting 365 days out, everything is going to go on there. Licenses, inspections, vendors, hiring, checkpoints with contractors, lenders, all that stuff will go on your critical path. So when things start to build, and so this is really where self-discipline kicks in, because there are going to be many times when it feels like nothing's going on and it doesn't matter if I get to this week or next week, but the temptation to procrastinate when you're still 4, 5, 6 months out from an opening is very high, but it is essential to stick to your deadlines at this point and make sure you are crossing stuff off your critical path, because believe me, in those last 90, then 60, then 30, then 15 days before opening, there will be dozens and then 100 and then 1,000 things that need to be doing every day. And you will wish that you could go back to your younger self and make that person cross off the critical path items, execute those when they were supposed to on the deadline. So stick to that critical path. Step 9, fund it smartly. So like I said, you got to fund it, raise more than you need, but do it smartly. So bootstrap it if you can. Get really clear on what you are promising the investors financially. How long is it going to take for them to recover 100% of their investment based on the cash flow, based on that 3-year pro forma? I've seen too many people lose control of their vision because they overpromised or underestimated what their cash needs were going to be. So 2 tactics you can use. 1, you could consider equipment leases. So this is something you can bundle all of your furniture, for instance, into an equipment lease. You will probably use a local bank for this. You will secure a 5-year equipment lease for them. They will pay your vendor directly, and they will basically own those tables and chairs and rent them back to you for the first 5 years on a lease with interest. And then at the end of that lease term, you will buy all of those tables and chairs for $1 from the bank. And the beauty of this is you don't have to put down a deposit on this. The collateral on the tables and chairs is the tables and chairs. And if you default on that lease, they will just come and take the tables and chairs. They won't come take your house. Another tactic that I've had to use before is just a fistful of credit cards, honestly. So find those, all those credit card offers you get in the mail, apply for a few of those through your business, find the ones that are 0% APR for 1 year and use those on an emergency basis. I ended up putting a lot of utilities, Spectrum, cable and Wi-Fi, and the gas company and the electric company and stuff like that, just putting those on auto pay for credit cards, and then just auto pay, make sure you're, to make sure that you don't incur a lot of interest. And so you have auto pay set up for with both Spectrum and the credit card, and auto pay set up between your bank account and the credit card balance. So step 10, open like a pro, open like you've done it before. So do a soft opening before you do a grand opening. Train your staff thoroughly. Train them rigorously, because you get what you train. And so keep in mind, I've said before that no product survives first contact with a paying guest. The same is true for your servers. They are going to get banged up a little, and they're going to realize what they don't know and what questions they don't have great answers for in those first services when they have contact with paying guests. So again, the better their training, the more rigorous and more thorough their training, the better they're going to be able to adapt with a smile and impress those first guests who come in the door. And the planning does not stop once you unlock the doors. That's when the real work starts. That's when you go from the adrenaline and the poetry of opening into the prose and the drudgery and the day-to-day grind of operating a restaurant. So stay sharp, keep learning from your mistakes post-opening, and lead your team. They are going to need your leadership. So that's the 10-step roadmap. You can click and get it for free in the show notes, but this roadmap is not theory. So it's what I've done in my own restaurants, and it's what I teach people when they ask me how to open theirs. So the biggest traps you can fall into are the shortcuts and the guesswork and trying to do it all alone. Remember, hope is not a strategy. Luck is not a factor. Failure is not an option. You don't have to do this alone. There are tools out there and people like me who have done it before, so you don't have to start from scratch. So, are you still looking to open your own restaurant? Click that link in the show notes to get this 10-step roadmap for free. Thanks for listening. Stay humble, stay hungry.